Okay, I'll just introduce you. So, Hare Krishna, everybody. Today we are very fortunate. We are in Mobara, which is 50 kilometers outside of Tokyo. It's a beautiful countryside, a lot of rice field. Today's beautiful sunshine. We had a little rain for a few days, but it's a beautiful area, very peaceful, very nice. And today we're very fortunate. We are with Satya Deva Prabhu, who is Srila Prabhupada disciple. And thank you, Satya Deva, for coming for this podcast. And he's married with a Japanese and lives in America.
Yeah, I live in Pacifica, California.
California. Beautiful sunshine, beautiful beaches, beautiful place.
Yeah, near the beach. It actually is foggy in the summertime.
Oh, okay.
And kind of cold.
Oh,
even.
Really?
Yeah, everywhere around it is warm. But
Okay.
near the beaches can be pretty cold.
Nice. So, Satya Deva Prabhu, tell us a little bit about your family, where you grew up, and your family, your brother, sister, father, mother. We're a little bit in a few minutes.
Sure. I was born and raised in San Francisco, California, and my mother and father passed away. I have two younger brothers. My youngest brother died actually last year. Mm-hmm. And it was a normal middle class upbringing, and pretty much San Francisco's multicultural. Yeah. So I didn't really grow up knowing any Japanese, but I knew a lot of Chinese people.
Interesting.
So I was a little familiar with Asian culture, just because.
Oriental.
Yeah, Oriental.
Nice.
And I went to high school and went to a couple of years of junior college. Didn't really have any direction. Mm-hmm. Really, it was like the hippie era.
68.
Just coincidentally,
65.
I used to hang out in Golden Gate Park when Srila Prabhupada and the devotees were there, but I never saw them. I didn't know then. I know now that they were there. Oops. But never actually never saw any devotees. This was in the night. I guess the temple started there in 67 or 68. Mm-hmm. And the devotees used to go to Hippie Hill, and I was at the same spot, hanging out.
But you never met the devotees?
Never met the devotees.
Interesting. But then at one point in your life, you decide to become a spiritualist. Whom did you meet? What happened? You were a seeker of the truth and finding out.
I just remember about the time I was 13. I guess there were a couple of incidences that occurred that kind of formed my spiritual inclinations.
Okay.
Like when I was 11, America and Russia almost had a nuclear war.
Yeah.
And we all thought it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so much to the point that we decided not to go to school the next day because we thought that was our last day on Earth.
That's it.
Right. So let's go have fun.
Eat some chocolate.
And then when I was 13, President Kennedy was assassinated.
Yeah.
That was also quite a shocker. So I saw right then how temporary life was.
Right.
And then the kind of the hippie creed was everything's temporary, and why go to college? Why do anything? The authorities that be all the institutions, they don't know anything. So why become a part of that? So by the time and then there was the Vietnam War, and I had a lot of friends died in that.
You were not drafted in the...
I was actually. I had a draft card, but I was going to college, so I had a deferment. And then they came out with a numbering system, like a lottery.
Yeah.
And I had a high number. And at that point, I decided, I'm not going to go to college anymore. And I was actually going to join a hippie commune. There was a group of hippies I used to hang out with in San Francisco. and they were going to start a commune. And I had already bought a bus, and I was going to go. And then I had an opportunity to go to Japan. So I was just going to go to Japan for a couple of weeks. Anyway, when I was 13, I started trying to meditate and became spiritually inclined, but I didn't like religion. I didn't like, especially like organized religion like Christianity. None of that made sense to me, but I wanted to have some experience of God, I guess.
You must have written some book, like Carmenes or this and that. I don't know. Or
No,
Buddhist or something.
I grew up with dyslexia.
Oh, okay.
And I couldn't read very well.
Okay.
It was quite a chore to read, even after I got out of high school. But yeah, there was no internet or anything like that.
No,
So
of course.
I just, on my own, just tried. Had no idea what I was doing, but I just had this urge. And then I started chanting a Buddhist mantra for hours a day.
Which one it was?
Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. But
Famous.
I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah.
I was just told that it will fulfill your desire, and I liked the sound of it. I liked the process of chanting a mantra and sitting and kind of meditating on that. And so I was doing that, and I'd given up drugs, and I left my girlfriend, and I was, just
exploring.
praying to God, give me some direction. I don't know what else to do. And about that time, I had the opportunity to go to Japan, which that's where the mantra came from, right?
Yeah, of course.
Right? And
It's a combination of different mantras, actually,
Yeah.
the different words.
Right. So I thought, maybe this is a sign from God.
That something can appear to me. And that's where you met Srila Prabhupada and devotees.
Yeah.
So who was the first devotee you met?
Well, there was. I was talking to Bhaktivedanta Swami. We met the devotees in the same place, and the same devotees pretty much. But it was in. I was working in Ginza, which is a real
The crowded place in
crowded
Tokyo.
and high class.
You were working as what?
Teaching English.
Oh, yeah.
I'd been in Japan about 2 months, and instead of going back, I decided to stay for my full visa, 3 months, and because I liked it so much. And so I started teaching English, and on my lunch break, I heard this. I didn't know what was on. I heard this music out on the street. Yeah, cartels, drums, and there was a whole party out there. I have a picture of it. Actually.
Wow, you can share it with me.
And I don't know who took this picture or where it came from, but it's
amazing, huh?
Yeah, it's and I'll show you in this picture the first devotees I met, because you can see him
What was his name?
right there.
Oh,
Sudama, Madhuvisa,
Madhudvisa,
Kirtananda,
Kirtananda.
and that's me.
Oh,
And we're in Ginza.
Far out. You can share this picture. We can put it together on the
Yeah,
podcast.
it's so poor quality, but
No, it doesn't matter. It's beautiful.
so, and actually, there were other devotees in the party, but they're not in this.
Of
When they
course.
were sitting down.
Yeah.
So,
What was your feeling when you first saw these people?
I liked that they were doing something. I knew it was spiritual. I didn't know it was Indian or what the mantra meant, but I liked it. I liked the fact that we could sing it. And so I just joined right in, and then they invited me to the temple, to come with them back to the temple, and they said it was a very special day. And it was. They said it was Krishna's birthday, and at midnight they were going to have a feast, a vegetarian feast. And I wanted to be a vegetarian. I was trying, but I wasn't doing very well. And so that really intrigued me. I thought, oh, vegetarian. And then they said, not only that, our spiritual master's
It's coming.
here.
Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, he was here. But he would come the next day because it was his birthday.
Wow.
So he was coming for his birthday. Just so happened, I did stay the night, and did have a wonderful vegetarian feast cooked by Kirtananda and Sudama primarily.
They were good cook.
Yeah, personally trained by Prabhupada to how to cook. To this day, I've never had samosas exactly the way
They made it.
they made it and the way Prabhupada taught them to make it. And Chintamani was also there. Borijan was there. And because Prabhupada was traveling, he was going on his way from America back to India for the first time. Actually, that trip back to India was Prabhupada was intending to establish ISKCON in India. All of his efforts up to this point were in America. So he brought his kind of leading disciples with him. Tamal Krishna was there. Borijan was part of the temple here, and there was Amoga, Satyabrata, and Chintamani, Sudama. They were the core devotees here. And then there was also Devananda Swami, Kartikeya Swami, Kirtanananda Swami, Madhavisa Swami.
Bhanu Maharaj was there?
Bhanu Maharaj was Bhakti Bruce. He hadn't joined yet, but he was also there.
Yeah.
And did I say Tamal Krishna?
Yes.
Yeah, Tamal Krishna. Yeah, he wasn't a Maharaj then, but they were on their way. So the next day, Prabhupada did come. That was the first time I saw.
You went to the airport?
No, he came. He was staying in an apartment in Harajuku, which was about one train stop away.
Okay.
And so he came in a limousine given to him by Daini Pong.
Yeah, they were printing
company.
Yeah.
And they had just established that relationship. And already they were treating Prabhupada as a VIP.
VVIP, I would say.
Yeah, VIP. So that was the first time I met Srila Prabhupada.
What was your impression, Srila Prabhupada?
My impression was, everyone was so excited when Prabhupada came right up in the car, and then Sudama gave me a garland to put around him, and I put the garland around him, and he said, "Thank you very much." And then next thing I knew, my head was on the ground along with everybody else. And I'm feeling a little conflicted, like, am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing this? Should I be bowing down to another human being? But
everybody was.
But then, during that day, that was a very an emotional day, because I didn't understand it at the time, but everyone was ecstatic when Prabhupada came in, and then suddenly the mood dropped. Prabhupada was expecting for the Vyas Puja ceremony to begin, but
nobody knew anything.
Nobody knew anything, and then one by one the senior devotees were apologizing to Prabhupada and crying, and then Prabhupada just got up and left. And then the whole mood dropped, and I was like, "Whoa, what's going on here?
What did we do wrong?"
What did we do wrong? And then about a half an hour later, maybe an hour later, the phone rang, and it was Prabhupada's servant saying, "Prabhupada will come to the temple tomorrow and give you another chance to do the Vyas Puja properly." And so I was still there. I never actually, from that time, I never went back to my job, and I actually just
quit.
I quit. I joined the temple.
Without
When I saw Prabhupada, my impression was that he was completely ecstatic inside and happy and blissful, and I thought, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I want, and this person has it. So maybe they can actually show me,
how to become
like that. So I didn't know the philosophy and I didn't know the mantra, but I knew Prabhupada from that experience. So I guess that's what sparked my faith.
Wonderful.
And then I did have a couple of morning walks in Meiji Jingu, which is a wonderful shrine near where Prabhupada was staying. I don't know if you've been there.
No.
It's a beautiful place. Anyway. And he actually invited me to come along to India, but I said, I didn't have any money. And I thought, I'll just stay at the temple. But I think Banu Maharaj was on the same walk, and he went.
He went.
Yeah.
He went. I was invited to come to India.
Yeah.
He said, you come with me. And Prabhu.
Yeah, so he went. And then I stayed in the temple after everybody left. And so then it was just Sudama and Chintamani. Sudama and Chintamani, they took such good care of me.
Nice.
I felt so, I guess, taken care of by them. And then Madhuvisa and Tamal and Kirtanananda, and Devananda, they all left with Prabhupada to India. But Tamal continued to write to me letters of encouragement.
Nice.
And those, maybe 3 or 4 letters I got from him. And that really impressed me as well. That, wow, somebody saw me and is still thinking about me. And that personal connection was, I think, critical for me. If I hadn't had that personal connection from him and from Sudama and Chintamani, Orijan also was took really nice care of me. But he wasn't there very long. Soon after that, him and Amoga, there was Amoga too. Him and Amoga went to Australia, and then Borjan went to Hong Kong. And so it was just me and Chintamani. And
so a lot of service to do.
And Sudama. Yeah, we would go out. And Sudama would go teach English to support the temple, and nice. Chintamani and I would go out on Harinam. And then gradually my visa ran out. I had already extended it, so
you had to go out.
I went back to San Francisco, and I joined the temple there.
Okay.
And it was just blossoming at that time.
Yeah.
And that was also a really great experience. I was immediately put under the care of Jayananda Prabhu. Oh. And again, I got such wonderful personal attention and care.
Jayananda was very special devotee, I think. He met a lot of devotees just by his care. He's taking care of people, and very personal, and very handsome also looking, with the blue eyes, and very pure. I heard many pastimes.
It's funny though, we were all so young, and he was like an old man. He was 35, and I was 19 or 20.
Yeah, you were
and most of the devotees were also like early 20s. So he was like the parent of the temple,
taking care of everybody. But then you came back to Japan after how many years?
I was in San Francisco for about 1.5 years.
Okay.
And I got trained how to cook by Jayananda. And actually, when I first got there, they were preparing for Rath Yatra, but in those days they built the carts from scratch.
Yeah.
So it took 3 or 4 months just to build the cart. So we lived out on the cart site. I don't remember Mangalartiks or Bhagavatam classes.
Just working on each other.
Yeah, they didn't have. I don't think that was that structured yet. There was Harinam, and then working at the carts, and then I got first and second initiation during that period.
In San Francisco.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
And then Karandar, he was in a GBC, but he was like, him and Tumal were basically running the movement, and Karandar was very much involved with Japan and the East, and with Dai Nippon, the printing company. So when I left Japan, there was just Chintamani and Sudama, and there were no other devotees there. So Sudama had asked for help. So Prabhupada, through Karandar, he asked me if I wanted to go back to Japan, and I guess Trivikram Swami and Satadanya.
No, Satadanya Prabhu was there, yes.
And another devotee named Ramadulal, and then Gopal Swami. And then Banu from India. We were all sent back as reinforcements for Japan.
Japan Yatra.
And that was in 1972. And that was early 1972, and then Prabhupada came in April 1972. I did meet Srila Prabhupada again in San Francisco at the Rath Yatra. Was able to do some personal service for him. He stayed over in Berkeley, though, actually.
Nice. I wanted to ask you a little bit about this. Sorry, I'm just changing the position. The Radha Krishna which you bought this year was a great event. You know, you bought back the Didi, which was originally here in Japan, Radha Govinda.
Yeah.
And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also came.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit the story, how they were installed by Srila Prabhupada in Japan. In which year? Maybe 73, I don't remember.
1972 in
72.
April, Prabhupada came.
So then Prabhupada installed this deity in a very simple way, I understood. But tell us the story.
Yeah, well, at that time I was pretty oblivious to what was going on. I was a brahmachari living in the countryside temple there, going out all the way to downtown Tokyo every day.
With a train.
With a train, and also at first we drove a van. And so I don't remember that much, except that I remember other things, really.
Well, you can tell us what you remember.
The thing that really impressed me was the morning walks that I went on with Srila Prabhupada, and also every morning for Bhagavatam class. As far as I know, that's where Prabhupada began to institute the formalities of the Bhagavatam class that we know now, which is first he started the class by showing us how to chant the mantra. So we sat around Srila Prabhupada in a circle, and we were reading the second canto. I think it was Lord in the Heart. And Prabhupada would chant the verse of the day, the Sanskrit, and then one by one he'd have each one of us chant and then correct us. Like I said, I had dyslexia, so it was really hard for me. I'm much better now. But I was just so impressed by that. And then he would go over the word for word, and then the verse, and then the purport, and then give the class. And we did that every morning,
And question answer as well?
Yeah.
In the end?
Yeah.
And then you will end up with the kirtan maybe, or no?
I don't remember the kirtan. He would take us a walk in the morning, and then we'd have the Bhagavatam class.
Nice.
And up until that point, I never sat down to any kind of formal Bhagavatam classes.
Right. It was the beginning.
Yeah.
So.
I remember that. I know that he installed the deities then, but I don't remember the details of the ceremony.
But tell us how they did it now after so many years. Number one, they went out of Japan. I don't know who took them out.
So, after Prabhupada installed the deities, and at that time, Prabhupada was reverse course. He was traveling from India to Japan back to America. And at that time, he also gave Sudama sannyas. And then for that, I think it was Varadhan Prabhu. He came to there to meet from Hong Kong. He came just to be there with Prabhupada. But because Sudama took sannyas, Chintamani couldn't stay there anymore. Sudama's wife.
Right.
So he brought her, before Prabhupada left, he brought her to Hong Kong. So I remember that part. And then Sudama stayed for some time because Mahaguna and I got married about 2 months after Prabhupada had left. During one of those morning walks, I actually asked Srila Prabhupada if I could get married. And he said yes, but then he said, is she a devotee? And I said, no. And he said, well, will she become a devotee? And I said, yes. And he said, then okay. In those days, the devotees still used to ask Srila Prabhupada if they could get married or not. They few years after that, that all stopped. But
It's nice to ask spirituals.
back in those days. So I remember we got married, so we lived outside of the temple. So I wasn't engaged directly. I was engaged in the deity worship up till that time because I was second initiated. It wasn't too hard to get second initiated in those days.
Yeah, I remember.
It was like an accepted thing.
Yes.
6 months wait for first, 6
Yeah.
months wait for second,
Yes,
and it was automatic almost.
Right.
And so Bhanu Swami was basically taking care of the deities.
He was worshipping the deity,
Yeah,
doing the offering and cooking.
Yeah, he was pretty much doing everything.
Amazing.
And then, eventually Sudama left. I don't remember exactly when, but the Trivakram Swami basically became the temple president along with Satyadanya. And I can't remember exactly when Satyadanya left either. It's all kind of a blur, but the worship of the deities went on consistently, steadily, in spite of different administrations that came, and in spite of the temple moving 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, because you were renting different property in small places.
And then the last place that the physical temple was in 1975 in Mita, which is kind of downtown Tokyo, and it was the old Italian embassy.
Wow.
And so the deities were being worshipped there. Maguna was doing a lot of the worship, along with another devotee named Karnamrita. And then that was the Namhata party.
Mm.
So there was all brahmacharis, and there was Guru Kripa and Yasodanandan Swami, like the dynamic duo. And then I went to Hawaii in 1975, and I would come back and forth to Japan to collect money for Vrindavan and Mayapur fund. But we didn't stay in the temple. We were just in hotels and traveling around. And Bhanu Swami was actually my main traveling partner. He kept me sane. And otherwise an insane time. So eventually the deities did leave Japan. And I remember hearing at that time, I was in Hawaii, and Prabhupada was very upset about that. But I didn't put 2 and 2 together till years later. Did you hear the story?
No, tell us, please.
Yeah, well, in 1991, I saw Sudama Prabhu. I'd seen him a few times after that. And each time he would tell me how all of his problems in Krishna consciousness began when he left Japan and didn't follow Prabhupada's orders to stay there.
Mm.
Well, I still didn't really understand that much till the last time I met him in 1991. And he had AIDS at that time, but in those days nobody knew what AIDS was.
Yeah, it was the beginning.
And it was pretty much a death sentence. So, but he had an apartment in San Francisco, kind of the gay area. And he told me, that all my problems began because I didn't stay in Japan and fulfill my promise to Srila Prabhupada. And he said, what I promised him was that I would take care of the deities. He said that he really kind of pressured Srila Prabhupada and begged him to install the Radha and Krishna deities, and Prabhupada was very hesitant to do that because the temple wasn't really established. Right? It was more like the cart before the horse. But to please and encourage Sudama and the devotees, he did install the deities. And then I understood that when Sudama didn't keep his promise, and then eventually the deities did have to leave Japan.
Because nobody was taking care of them.
I just kind of understood from Prabhupada's point of view how he must have felt at that time and how anxious he was, to call Krishna and into the deity and say, this is going to be your place, and these devotees are going to take care of you. And then the worship never stopped, thank God.
Because somebody was taking care of the deity in America.
Somebody is always, and not only taking care, but like first class taking care of the deities. Yeah. And so, but that was all. That always, I kind of felt that anxiety in my heart that somehow
the deity should come back.
Yeah, the deity should come back, and that then whatever happened, Prabhupada would, whatever anxiety he felt about that, then the anxiety would be resolved. So that was my motivating factor. So at different times, I saw the deities, and I saw how nicely they were taken care of. And I asked the devotees that were taking care of the deities at the time if they would allow the deities to go back to Japan. And they all knew the history, and they would, and they each time, this happened two, three occasions. They said yes. Eventually, we will allow them to go back, but we're not ready at this time.
Because they were attached to worship at them?
Yeah, I think
of
so.
Course. Otherwise, why they won't?
Yeah. And so last year, I heard that the deities were transferred. Originally, they were transferred to Swati at the LA Gurukula. And she worshipped them for years. And then I don't know how the worship got transferred to Mother Karta, but Mother Karta was also part of the LA Circle. She was also in LA when the deities first arrived there and were being taken care of by Naganatana Prabhu, one of Prabhupada's first Japanese devotees. And so she was there when they originally came. So she took care of them in a first-class way for 15, 20 years. And then she was gradually getting older. She couldn't take care of them well anymore, so she gave them back to Swati. And I heard that. So I contacted Swati last year, and I just humbly begged her again. Now may be the time for the deities to
go back,
to return to Japan. And she was very gracious about it. She didn't give me an answer right away. She said, well, I have to think about it, and I have to discuss it with all the devotees, because we have this preaching center here in Portland, and not Portland, but in Oregon, another town, and that they're the center of our congregation. So she discussed it with the congregation, and it was a unanimous, agreement amongst all the devotees that Radha and Radha Govinda should come back to Japan. It couldn't have happened in a more ideal way, really.
Beautiful.
It just went smooth all the way.
I think it was important that they presented properly to the congregation that this didn't belong, and Prabhupada installed them here, and somehow they end up there, and now we have a temple in Tokyo, so they should go back for Prabhupada pleasure. That's a wonderful.
I guess the only other point I mentioned to them is, historically it's so important for the Japanese devotees, because Prabhupada personally installed the deities.
Yes.
And through these deities they have at least some closer contact with Srila Prabhupada, right? Otherwise it gets so distant.
Yeah. But the amazing thing is that, from my point of view, is that Gauranga Mahaprabhu came along with them.
Yeah.
So where is this Gauranga coming from? I don't know.
Yeah.
It like appeared from the clouds. Tell us the story.
Yeah, I don't know too much of the story, because I didn't know. When I hadn't seen the deities in 15 years.
Right.
And that was at Mother Karta's apartment in Vrindavan.
Right.
And that was the last time that I had asked. And at that time, Gauranga wasn't there. And then when we went to pick up the deities this time, Gauranga was there.
Was there? He appeared.
So apparently, during that time, Mother Karta began worshipping Lord Gauranga with Radha Govinda.
Wow.
So I don't know the details. I can ask her though.
But it's beautiful that they come back, because Gauranga Mahaprabhu we worship like it's a combination of Radha and Krishna.
Yeah, yeah.
And also through Gauranga Mahaprabhu, it's all our sampradaya. the understanding of Radha Krishna worship come through the Goswami and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is a sign that the Japanese devotee will receive the mercy and the preaching will spread according to my myopic understanding. But it's beautiful. And we did a nice Abhishekam. We had a nice program in the temple. So it's so wonderful the service you have done for the Japanese Yatra.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was a long time coming. Honestly, I didn't think it would really. I had lost faith. I didn't think it was ever really going to happen. I thought, this is my last chance. I'll try one more time.
Satya Deva Prabhu. Now, we're almost coming to close to our podcast. Of course, we can speak for many, many hours. And I'm sure that when you will be coming back to Mayapur, I will take you to our Radio Mayapur studio and we'll do a longer interview. But because you are a spiritual master, and this morning you were speaking with His Holiness Bhanu Swami, and I heard something, and Bhanu Maharaj told me, oh, you should put that in a podcast. So I know you are a spiritual master, initiated by Srila Prabhupada. You have disciples, and you are guiding them, to reach the lotus feet of Shri Radha Govinda and Radha Krishna. So, but you were telling something very, very interesting, that you make an MOU, a memorandum of understanding. You sign this memorandum of understanding to all your disciples.
Yeah,
Am I correct?
You're correct, yeah.
So please read this memorandum of understanding, because this is so important in our today ISKCON moment. If you don't mind to share with everybody who listens to this podcast.
Well, the background behind this memorandum of understanding is becoming an initiating guru was always a very conflicting thing for me.
Of course.
And it initially happened just because a person who for many years said they wouldn't get initiated by anybody but me was on their deathbed and then asked me if I'd initiate them. And at that time I asked Chaitanya Maharaj and Bhanu Swami and Vaisheshika Prabhu, like my Shiksha gurus, what I should do.
Right.
And they said, of course, you should initiate her. But then, after that, I went through this is in 2005, so then I went through the initiation group process in ISKCON, which I didn't fully agree with. But, it's like either be part of the solution or be part of the problem.
Yeah,
right? So I've always wanted to be part of the solution.
Of course.
But I felt conflicted, and so I felt the only way that I could do this service if I was completely honest with myself and be authentic with others who I'm having a relationship with. So
that's beautiful what you're saying, because Bhaktivedanta Thakur said these 2 points, honesty and sincerity are the basis, foundation of our spiritual life. If we don't have these two, we can end up cheating ourselves or going on the tangent of the truck, and we've seen many exalted devotees. I mean, there are many stories in the Bhagavatam, but forget about this. We saw in our time, in the last 50 years of ISKCON, what happened to many devotees. So please enlighten us with this.
Yeah, so I thought at least if anybody who has faith in me or wants me to become their Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru, at least if I'm authentic and honest, then whatever faith they have will be legitimate and it won't be based on their imagination or what the teachings have taught them and now they're projecting it onto me, that kind of need. So that's kind of the background behind this.
Wonderful. So I think the truth is what the last leg of Kali Yuga.
Right.
And then if we lose that, we finish.
So basically there's 3 points.
Yeah, just tell them.
So point 1 is I declare I'm not a self-realized, nor do I claim to be a God-realized person. I am a fallible human being doing my best to honestly and authentically convey to others Krishna's and Prabhupada's message in Bhagavad Gita without change. I am a simple postal worker delivering the mail. Point 2. Please refrain from putting my picture on your altar. do not worship me. Worship is for God alone. Of course, you can offer me your respect and love out of gratitude, as I am your teacher. Point 3. Please do not idolize me. Do not fantasize that I am a superhuman or a special kind of devotee. I cannot take your karma or dissolve it, nor can I offer you liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Only Krishna can do that. I can point the way to liberation, but you yourself have to walk the path. So if a person, agrees with those 3 points, and
You can guide them.
I can guide them.
That's what Prabhupada wanted. So we are like postmen. So we are
Yeah.
just giving the message to people. And if the postman bring $1 million check or a bill to pay for the telephone, he doesn't get any credit. It's like a transparent via medium, Srila Prabhupada said. So that's very, very important. Thank you so much for sharing this, because I think this is very important in today's world. And so, is there any final message you would like to give to the audience of this Radio Mayapur, which are listening from all over the world, mostly devotees? So give us last, whatever is your heart, whatever you like to tell them.
I think all of us are followers, of Srila Prabhupada, either direct disciples or he is our Shiksha Guru, our founder Acharya. And it's up to us to be, as Prabhupada wanted us to be thoughtful and independently thoughtful and honest and sincere, and do our best to participate in this movement according to our capacity, and to respect each other's free, the ISV of ISKCON is, that Prabhupada wrote in one letter that, actually he wrote it to Karanda, I think, that Krishna consciousness can't be forced, it's voluntary. Love is voluntary.
Absolutely.
So it has to be voluntary, individual, and spontaneous. So I think if we can respect each other and not pressure each other to be honest in Krishna consciousness, then we'll give each other the space to be able to voluntarily choose to serve Krishna out of love.
That's nice. Yeah, because sometimes we see devotee, they have different vision, but we can respect everybody and we can agree to disagree also. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
It's not a problem. It's not that either you or me, one is a demon, one is a devotee. It's not like that. There's so much variety, so much level of devotee. We can respect from the new bhakta to the senior most disciple, Srila Prabhupada, and understanding that everybody is trying to love best. And how can we help everybody to progress?
Yeah.
That will keep our family united. Because otherwise, what we see is that it's going to split into so many different fractions because of not proper understanding. So I'd like to thank you very much today for being with me.
Thanks
With
for
us,
having
your
me.
servant, to do this podcast. And I hope that you will come to Mayapur and spend some time with us. Now Mayapur has changed. We have 10,000 devotees. The whole temple is expanding. There's so much going on and so much preaching. So please do come and visit us with your wife.
I'll have to have a street map to be able to
No
find
problem.
my way around.
I am there. I am your taxi driver. I'll take you. I have a motorbike. I'll take you everywhere.
All right. Thank you very
so
much.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai.